Rosaura. How are you doing?
Oh, hi, Megan. I'm doing super good. I'm really excited. And I'm so excited to be here with you and talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yes. Oh my goodness. All right. So, everybody watching, we're here to talk about boundaries. And if you have ever felt like a doormat, if you have ever felt like you swing back and forth between letting people walk all over you and like blowing up in their face and like cutting people off, Rosaura is going to be your person. Okay. Rosaura is going to give us all of the juicy details, going to tell us how to stand up for ourselves, how to wire our brains for connection through boundaries, I believe, based on what I know of her work. But first and foremost, Rosaura, how about you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, your brain, and why you love talking about boundaries.
Yeah, so my name is Rosaura and I'm a boundary coach. I help women find and set their boundaries. And a lot of people come to me when they're like, I am so angry that I have been people pleasing for so long. It's like that big emotion has finally come to the forefront and they're like, I don't want to be angry anymore. And I'm like, awesome, let's do this. Right. So I think what helped me a lot because I was like the biggest people pleaser ever. And I'm also autistic. So I think a lot of that people pleasing was me masking, trying to prove like I'm just like you and I can do everything. Right. So
Right.
it took me a long time to realize this and to realize I don't have to say yes to everything. I don't have to prove myself to anyone. And that's something that I love helping other women realize and step into because when they do, holy crap, their boundaries start shining. And, right now you may have boundaries, but they're not protecting your peace. They may be like, right? They may be lacking. But once you step into like this badass version of yourself, all of a sudden the boundaries you want, they kind of just start coming into play. So that's a little bit about me, what I do, and why I'm so obsessed with boundaries.
Yes. Okay. So I know you mentioned you're autistic and that people pleasing was a big part of your masking. Tell us a little bit about how you realized you needed boundaries and what did you start with? Where did you start? Because I know a lot of people are very like, okay, great. I know I need boundaries, but like how do I change my life that radically? How can I be that brave?
Yeah. So it was just a few short years ago. I want to say 2.5 years ago. Um, my life felt like it was just kind of not even exploding, kind of like just getting smushed. Like I couldn't breathe. Like everything was on me. Um, if I could get a little personal here, my parents, my dad was going through cancer treatment. My mom had just broken her leg, and I was the one taking care of them at home. And I have two small kids. I have a 7-year-old also on the spectrum, and he requires a lot of support from me. And then I have a 3-year-old. So he was like, my kids were a little bit younger at that time, right? And it felt like I had to do everything for everyone. And, I had always done this, but all of a sudden it was coming to like, I really had to do everything for everyone. And there was this part of me that was just like so anxious and nervous and scared and angry that I didn't want to do these things. And I kept realizing, I'm helping my parents. And in the back of my head, I was like, oh God, why do I have to help them so much? And I'm with my kids and I'm losing my patience and I'm blowing up. And it's like, this is not who I want to be. And it was kind of coming to this like point where I realized I don't want to be in this position anymore. What can I do? And
Mhm.
I just kind of went online and I was like, how come nobody in my life knows who I really am? I don't know. I searched like some random thing on Google, right? And I started reading about boundaries and I was like, huh, boundaries. That sounds interesting. And then I dove deep in. I started learning more about it. And the first thing I started doing was um, I would get in my notes app and I would write what I wanted to say to people, right? And then I would like tell myself, like, okay, I'm just going to go up to them and say it. Even if they don't change, even if nothing happens, I'm going to say it for me. So that was like the first step I
Mhm.
took to just kind of like, I need to get this out. I can no longer hold it in, right? So that was like my first step, just writing what I wanted to say and then going and saying it. And a lot of times the people I was talking to, they were like, I didn't know you felt that way. Like, what can we do? And some relationships were like, oh, you feel that way? Well, that's too bad. Right. So it just, you never know with relationships. Some relationships started to flourish and get better with boundaries, and while other relationships were like, okay, it's time to walk away. And it was
Mhm.
scary. I was still nervous. I was like, my heart was beating, my palms were sweaty, but I still went and did it because I was like, I don't want to hold this in anymore. Right. So it was like a release for me. I wasn't expecting them to change. I wasn't expecting them to do anything. It was for my own benefit to just kind of get it out of my system.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry, I like went on. Go ahead.
No, that's amazing. Do you and your kids, do you guys watch Bluey at all?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know the stick bird episode where those kids they mess up Bingo's stick bird and they take her stick and Bluey teaches her like, okay, you got to take the feeling, take it and you grab it and then you throw it.
Yeah.
And like Bluey, I forget exactly how she said it. She's like, "Well, I mean, do you want to hold on to it?" And Bingo's like, "No, I don't want to feel this way." And like it just I don't know, that's I just love that episode.
It
There are times where it's like, no, I should hold on to it because I'm angry and I'm hurt. And it's like, okay, but do you want to feel angry and hurt? Or
Mhm.
do you want to maybe change the situation a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of times we want to validate, like they hurt me, so I'm going to hold on to this hurt.
Yeah.
So we hold it and we white knuckle it. And it's like, it's okay to let it go. It's still true. If they hurt you, that is still true, but it doesn't mean you have to hold on to it, right? Like letting go doesn't mean they no longer hurt you. It could still be true that they did hurt you, but you don't have to carry that around.
Well, and if somebody hurt you, it's okay to let them know that. That's the other thing. I think we hold on to it to validate it, but we also hold on to it to hide it. So we're like invalidating it even as we're trying to validate it, you know?
So true. Yeah. And that's where we get like this internal conflict where we're like, I want to say something, but I don't. And I want to, and I don't. Right. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh my goodness. So, okay, walk me through what was it like the first time that you spoke your mind in front of somebody to somebody and like really tried to set a boundary? Like, how did it feel?
It was, like I said, I was shaking. I was nervous. And I had written everything down. And the conversation didn't go how I thought it would go in my head. Never does. Right.
Sure.
Um, but the person I set this boundary with, they looked at me and they were like, this whole time you felt this way and you never said anything. And I was just crying and I was like, yeah. And then they gave me this big old hug and they were just like, okay, like I see where I did wrong and I'm sorry. And I was like, and I see where I did wrong too. And I'm sorry. And we kind of just like held
Oh,
the space. Yeah. And it was like, I think that gave me like a boost to like, okay, it's okay if someone doesn't see my point of view and it's okay if they do. But it just gave me this like sense of it's going to be okay to speak my truth. And that was like the first boundary. It was with my cousin and he was like my brother, right? We grew up together and everything and with family, boundaries are going to get crossed, right? So, speaking up to him and letting him know, and for him to be so open and like just giving me the space to share, it was really great. It was really great.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you had that experience. I'm so glad that that person was able to listen to you and hear you and hold your feelings with you. I think that's a really special, like you said, some relationships are going to flourish with boundaries. And it sounds like this one probably has. And that's awesome. I love that.
But I do want to talk about relationships that don't flourish when
Yes,
you set
please.
a boundary. Um, because unfortunately, some relationships they might end. Or even if you love them from a distance, that is okay. Right? So I think a great thing to do is when you say your boundary to someone else, that's not all there is to it. You have to also take the action that aligns with what you say, right? So,
Okay.
so if you tell someone, I don't, I don't want you to call me after 7. Let's say you're talking to work. I don't want you to call me after 7 p.m. And then work calls you at 8 o'clock on a Friday and you answer. That's
Mhm.
not a boundary But you saying, I don't want you to call me after 7 p.m. It's Friday, it's 8 o'clock. The phone's ringing. Oh, let me ignore work because my boundary is I don't answer after 7.
Yeah.
Right? So you're taking that action that aligns with what you say, and that's the boundary you're going to uphold. And, not all boundaries have to be firm and like to the point. Some boundaries will be made to help you in the moment, but maybe down the road, you want to loosen them up because circumstances and life always changes, right?
Okay, here's where I have a question for you. A lot of autistic folks, we tend to deal with black and white thinking, very rigid thought patterns.
Mhm.
How do you come up with these more flexible boundaries? Because I know for a lot of people, it feels like either I have to love and accept these people for exactly who they are, and we have to be super tight, super close, or I have to cut them off, never talk to them again. Like, how do you find that middle ground as an autistic person?
Well, for me personally, in the beginning, when I did start setting boundaries, it was very either you're with this boundary or you're not,
Mhm.
right? And it took a few months, maybe a good year, for me to realize I still kind of want this person in my life. And right. And I was like, I miss them, or like I'm thinking of them. Um, and it was kind of going back and saying, like, hey, I still have this boundary. Like, can we talk about it? Right. And I think it just comes with time because in the moment you're gonna do what feels right to you. And it's okay that if you change it down the road, it's your boundary doesn't have to be a rule forever, right? It's just something in the moment that will help you. So if it needs adjusting, it needs adjusting, right? Um, and I think just kind of remembering like I can adjust my plans. Just kind of having that mantra, I'm someone who adjusts things as I go. And remembering that it's very helpful even in like any like with business, with life, just I'm someone who can adjust to different things, right? Just kind of telling yourself that and kind of believing it too. And when something comes up and you're like, "Oh, okay, I can't adjust to that." Okay, that's fine. In this moment, you don't have to. But if you want to try again, you can, right? It's just kind of being with yourself in the moment. Like, what am I okay with right now? And what am I giving the possibility that could possibly change in the future? Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. Have you had experiences where you've maybe set a really firm boundary and then down the line you've realized you wanted to maybe change it or adjust it, but the other person has been really hurt by that boundary that you set initially and they haven't been receptive?
Yeah. This actually happened to me. Someone set a boundary with me, and this was when I was still in my people pleasing prime, and I took it very offensively.
Mm.
Um, I took it the wrong way, and I was just like, okay, well then they don't. I'm not gonna have them in my life if that's what they want. But the reason they were setting that boundary was so that I could stay in their life, right? But just in a respectful way for them. But I
Yeah.
didn't take it that way. Um, it took me a while to realize that that is why they said it. And when I came to that realization, I was like, "Ooh, let me go apologize because I was pretty rude about it." And they were just like, "Well, I'm glad you're here now. Like, let's keep this relationship going." But it was really hard in the moment because, you know, I felt their boundary was attacking me when it had absolutely nothing to do with me. It was to protect their peace. And I think when we see it from a different like perspective, like let's say I would have set the boundary and they took it offensively, I would be like, well, that's on them, right? But I think because I saw that point of view, like, oh, they're attacking me, when in reality it wasn't an attack. It was like, I want you in my life, but with these limitations, with these requirements. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
I
Um,
think that's really helpful to hear from that point of view because I think that tends to be a lot of us like our fear is like, what if I set this boundary and like I can't boundaries are not about controlling other people's behavior. I think that's a big thing I've learned recently is like boundaries are about me and my needs. And if other people can't meet them, that's a possibility I have to be prepared for. And like, oh, hate that. Hate it. Wish I could just do and be the perfect thing to make other people be there for me the way I need. But that's so limiting, and it forces you to be a version of yourself that's very sanitized and not very real. And so like I think boundaries, from my experience anyway, allow you to love yourself and the other person at the same time. And that can be really tricky, I think, especially if you've got really enmeshed relationships where it feels like having an individual identity and loving yourself individually almost feels like a rejection of the other person. And so trying to work that out has been a big thing for me over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I was the type of friend who, like, if you told me you loved something, I loved that thing too. Because I wanted you to be happy. I wanted you to feel like I was a safe space to come with all the things you love and hate, right? So, like, if you hated that thing, I hate that thing now too. And I was just like, "Oh, it's because I'm an empath. Like, I just feel everything so deeply." But it was like, "No, girl, it was me morphing and trying to just people please and be who they needed me to be."
Mhm.
Right? And I think learning about like who you are, what is it you really like, what is it you really want to do, and asking yourself like, do I really like that, or was that just me trying to please them in the moment? Right? Going back and asking yourself, do I really want that? Do I really like that? Is that something I even like? All of a
Yeah.
sudden you're like, huh, I guess I really don't like that. Right? Like,
Oh my goodness. I remember I met with somebody. Oh, I'll tag her, link her website in the description. I think her name is Rosemary something. Shoot. Anyway, I met with this person, and yeah, she clocked me immediately as being very codependent, very people pleasy, very masking, even if she couldn't identify what I was masking. And she was like, I want you to just make a list of things that you like and dislike. And Rosaura, let me tell you, this was so hard. Why was this so hard? Like, it was so difficult to tell what I even liked and disliked, like truly, and what I was just saying I liked and disliked for other people.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because for the majority of our lives, we went with the grain. We were like, they like it, I like it too.
So, Rosaura, I wondered if for a second you could talk about they're called Talk It Out templates. Is that what it is? So, tell us a little bit about that. Rosaura is going to have her templates in our Not a Broken Neurotypical bundle, which is going to be opening May 20th. So, if you want to get on that wait list, the link is in the description. But tell us a little bit about your templates.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for this bundle because I'm like, oh, what am I gonna grab from there? So I'm super excited for it. Yeah, so the Talk It Out templates are a like a giant list of prompts, scripts, affirmations, boundaries, and they're kind of broken down into like I have responsive scripts, which are what to say when someone says something that's kind of like a little bit triggering, right? And then I have like conflict resolution scripts, so how to bring up issues where you're feeling a little like, how can I ask for help, how can I do X, Y, and Z, right? And then there's like things like how to set your first boundary, how to say no in different situations. So it's like this giant list of plug and play templates that you can use in real life, which to this day, I go in there and I'm like, okay, I want to talk about this to someone. What can I use right now? And it kind of helps me and my brain just like have a starting point of where to go into like confrontation and how to have conversations that may be a little hard to have. So I think it's going to be really, really helpful for everyone who's just like, they get the deer in the headlights look when they think about confrontation. They're like, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to bring this up. How do I ask for help? Right. So these talk it out templates, that's going to be your go-to for that. No more deer in the headlights. It's going to be like, okay, let me speak up. Let me talk this out. Let me create better connections.
Mhm. Yes, 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 yes. Better connections. That's what boundaries are for. Boundaries are bridges. They're not burning the bridge, it's building the bridge, right?
100%. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, it was so great to talk to you. Please, please, please let people know where they can follow you, where they can check out your stuff, because I am 100% sure there's going to be viewers who want to be in your circle online.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Instagram. I'm like always on Instagram at Rosaura Thun. Megan will put it somewhere in the description because you're going to be like, how the heck do I spell her name? So, um, and I'm also on TikTok. And oh man, TikTok is so much fun. So, same thing at Rosaura Thun. If you're on TikTok or Instagram, hit me up, let me know, send me a DM, say, hey, I found you from Megan's, and like just say hi because I love that so much.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on. Thank you for being here. And everybody go check out the bundle and get your Talk It Out templates. And we will talk to you all next time.
Yeah, bye, you guys.